Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another podcast on MMA Unhinged. We are back for another episode to talk about the fights that went down this weekend and the fights that are coming up this weekend. We've got a stacked show to talk about, and none other than Oscar Silva to join me. How are you over there?
I'm doing very good. We had a very amazing moment this past Saturday. I think this is going to be a moment we remember for years. It was the birth of a new star in Sugar Sean O'Malley, getting the second round TKO over Aljamain Sterling, the reigning champion. This this really saved the card because the card had a lot of decisions on it, but I knew that the sport was too exciting for there to be another board decision in the main event. Sugar Sean O'Malley delivered on his promise to become a champion one day. Many mocked him for that belief, including myself. I'll admit it. We picked against him, but in the end, he proved that he had the skills to be at the top. What did you make of the moment and the overall performance?
I mean, it was fantastic. The first round I thought was very close, and I thought that was going to be the story of the fight. If I'm going to be honest, I thought maybe we're going to see Aljamain Sterling pick his shots and just get the better of Sean O'Malley. But what I learned from Sean O'Malley in this fight is all he needs is one shot, one big shot, and the fight could be over. There was a lot of people protesting the stoppage, but I'm going to be totally honest. I'm happy with the stoppage. I thought Sterling hit the ground, hit the canvas pretty hard, face down. It wasn't really a good look. He took a lot of shots. I'm happy. I have no arguments with that stoppage. Do you?
I thought it was a little early, but it was reasonable. I thought he would eventually get finished anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree. But a spectacular performance from Sean O'Malley. I said before the show last week, if he wins this, he's going to turn into a superstar, and I think that's the feeling. I think going forward, Sean O'Malley is going to be a pay-per-view superstar. Whoever he gets matched up with, I think he's going to sell massively. And I know there's talks already with Sean O'Malley returning in December. He wants to be on that Conor McGregor undercard as a co-main event, and that would sell massively.
Yeah, that probably won't happen because the UFC will try to get the pay-per-view buys out of both guys separately, but it would be a really fun event if it were to happen. Either way, I do think he's going to fight Marlon Chito Vera in a rematch. I think that fight makes a lot of sense because Marab and Corey Sandhagen currently are recovering from surgeries, and there's nobody really else that is talking that kind of trash to Sugar Sean. Of course, there's Aljamain Sterling, but the guy already said he wanted to move up prior to this, so we kind of wrote him off in terms of his future in the bantamweight division. So I think
Completely
that's
agree.
the fight to make. That's for Sugar Sean too. It's the biggest name and it's the biggest check. It makes all the sense in the world for him and his future, and I think that's a fight he would win.
Absolutely agree. I'm looking forward to that fight. And there's the storyline to it already, isn't there? The UFC doesn't have to promote as much or try and build a storyline. There's something there between Sugar Sean O'Malley and Cheetah Vera. So it makes a ton of lot of sense. I'm looking forward to it, obviously, when that happens down the line. Fantastic performance, Sean O'Malley. He's the new superstar of the UFC, especially in that bantamweight division. The bantamweight division is stacked. If you look at Sean O'Malley's rise to fame, rise up the rankings in the last year, it's been nothing but spectacular. We'll move over to the co-main event. We had Weili Zhang versus Amanda Lemos. I mean, complete dominance. I think this is the only way to really describe the fight. Weili Zhang, I felt like was in control of the fight at, at, for 25 minutes, set from the ninja choke at one point. But other than that, I feel like Weili Zhang won this fight for 24 minutes and 50 seconds.
Yeah, this was one of the single greatest performances in UFC history. Sal D'Amato even scored it a 50-43, which is definitely fair. Every round was very clearly in John Willie's favor. She had the biggest strike differential in a women's MMA fight we've ever seen in the UFC. The totals ended up being 296 to 29 with 16 minutes of control time. That is unheard of, and you can't ask for more out of John Whitley. This is one of the few instances where the UFC gave out a performance of the night bonus to somebody that won by decision. They always give them out for finishes, but not this time. You could have argued that the ref could have stopped it if they wanted to, but Lemos, she proved her toughness, obviously, but this was more dominant than even I could have imagined.
Absolutely. It was a fantastic performance from Whaley, really stamping her mark as probably the best, if not, the best active female fighter right now that we have on the UFC roster. She really showcased what everything about her and put on a fantastic performance. Kudos, obviously, to Whaley to put on a fantastic performance and dispatched a really good Amanda Lemos, where she's in a tough position right now. Just lost to the former champion. It just kind of seemed like no one's going to beat Wei Li at the moment in that division unless her name's Wei Li Zhang. So no, unless her name's Rose Namajunas. So we'll move on to Ian Machado Gary versus Neil Magny. I think I chose the decision last weekend, and I think I got it to a T. I think after that press conference, Ian Machado Gary just wanted to beat the brakes off him, just wanted to punish him. There was a lot of bad words that both of them were saying to each other at the press conference. And I said to Oscars, straight away after that, I felt like Neil Magny was maybe not flustered, but kind of was going to fight angry at the fight. And maybe he was just trying to, I just don't know. But Ian Machado Gary had his number, and gosh darn it, did he have his number? He beat the brakes off him for 15 minutes. It was impeccable.
This this was another super dominant performance where multiple 10-8 rounds were scored. Ian Machado Gary made Neil Magny look like this guy was barely coming into the UFC, but on the other hand, the guy has the most wins in welterweight history, and he wasn't competitive for 1 second here against Ian. Uh, Ian Ian to me has improved with every fight we've seen him in, and I think he's now ready for top 10 opposition. He called for Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. It appears that Wonderboy does not want the fight. There's so many guys you could give him, but I do think that the winner of Kevin Holland versus Jack Del Mondolino should probably fight Ian Garrett because that would be a great fight for Madison Square Garden. That's where the UFC wants to have him, and they're obviously building him up as one of as the next big Irishman. And after that, they would put him in Dublin, Ireland. That would be very epic. But I do think they have to be a little careful with the matchmaking of Ian Gary, just like they were careful with Sean O'Malley, because put him in there with a monstrous wrestler. I personally don't think it would go super well for him. It's just that we haven't seen him tested there yet. And what was the Darius Flowers fight? He got held up against the fence for a while there. I think guys like Sean Brady might give him trouble, but for now, you keep him in these fun striking fights and doing look awesome.
Yeah, completely agree. We'll keep it swiftly moving over to Mario Batista versus Damon Blackshear. I mean, heading into this one, Damon was stepping in there on short notice and fighting 2 fights in seven days. Ridiculous. But kudos for him stepping in there. Really showing the heart of lion. Didn't go his way. But I feel like the UFC will respect him for obviously doing that. But he will definitely get another shot. I mean, he won last week by Twister, lost this one by decision against Mario Batista, who I think is very underrated. So, nonetheless, I think there's no shame in it.
Yeah, this was a fight that could have gone either way. I was very unsure who won in the end. Sure, round three did go to Mario Batista, but it was that round two that was a swing round. Damon Blackshear landed more significant strikes, but you could argue Batista landed more impactful strikes. Very close fight, and you would have never known Damon was coming in on 6 days' notice. So yeah,
Exactly.
this really showed me that Damon is much better than his UFC record suggests. Batista's been around a while, and he's Sean O'Malley's sparring partner. So yeah, fun fight overall. Not much to take away from it. And the opener, we had a lot to take away from because, as we said previously, if Marlon Vera were to get this win, he would be in a prime position to take on the man he already beat, Sean O'Malley, in a future fight for the championship, which is pretty wild. That Marlon Vera, he was coming off a bad loss to Corey Sandhagen, a fight in which he was dominated. He didn't really show up for, and now he's gonna fight for the title and Sanhagen has to sit on the sidelines. It's a weird sport. It's all about opportunity. Uh, this really reminds me of the Dan Henderson and Michael Bisping situation we had in 2016, where Michael Bisping won the title in the main event, and Dan Henderson got a knockout earlier in the night. The stars aligned for the rematch, and the stars have aligned. I thought this was another fight that could have gone either way, but at the end of the day, you look at Pedro Munoz's face; he's very marked up, and Marlon Vera, as usual, doesn't have a scratch on him somehow. So I think Marlon Vera was the rightful winner here, and it's really remarkable that he's in the title fight.
Yeah, completely agree. Fantastic victory for Marlon Vera. Really started the main card in a fantastic way. It was entertaining. Marlon Vera is always always in a good scrap. And obviously gets the decision victory, and now looks ahead getting the UFC shot as you mentioned. We talk about the prelims. Obviously, we have Brad Tavares, this is Chris Weidman, Gregory Rodriguez, Robert Cotton, Dennis Tulin, Kurt Halabar was Austin Hubbard. Brad Katona and Cody Gibson, they were the two tough 31 finals. Andre Petrowski versus Jared Mershot. Natalia Silva versus Andrea Lee, and also Karine Silva versus Marina Moros. So, yeah, the prelims I unfortunately missed. So, I won't be able to talk much. I'm about to rewatch them just quickly, just so I know what I was getting myself into. But they were good. There were some fights there that I love. Obviously, Gregory Rodriguez getting a finish. I love Gregory Rodriguez. He's so fantastic. He's always in a good fight. Obviously, Chris Weidman. Yeah, I think what I took away from there, he's never going to be the same moving forward. I feel like that leg break took a lot out of his career, a lot on his body. I think I agree with Dana White what he said after the press conference. Maybe it is time for Chris Weidman to kind of hang it up and call it a day. Kurt Holobaugh versus Austin Hubbard, getting Kurt Holobaugh, that was a fantastic fight. He got the submission victory triangle. Brad Katona in a very, very close fight with Cody Gibson. Could have went either way. What are your thoughts on the prelims? Just talk about them roughly.
The prelims to me were much better than the main card. Uh, of course, the last fight on the prelims was Chris Weidman getting pretty much beaten up pillar to post by Brad Tavares. Who would have expected Brad Tavares to attack Chris Weidman's good leg? And we basically had Chris Weidman hobbling around. The optics were terrible. Uh, and there was plenty of fouls in this fight. Chris Weidman's best moment in the fight was landing a body kick and then getting a takedown. Unfortunately, the body kick did did touch Brad Tavares a little bit below the belt, and that cost Weidman that position. And who knows what would happen if they did not recognize that as a foul. Either way, Chris Weidman was in this fight at many times. This wasn't completely one-sided, but it was a very clear win for Brad Tavares. It's the best he's looked in a long time. He defended just about every takedown, and yeah, for Chris Weidman, there's no reason to fight again. He's going to be out probably a year, and he's already been champion. He's defended the title. I don't know why he would fight again, other than to get a win just for his ego. But yeah, there's a lot of guys that would do significant damage to Weidman. Not just think he can protect his health at this point. And for Gregory Rodriguez and Dennis Tululin, I pointed out on the show that Gregory should take him down, use his superior jiu-jitsu, and I thought he would get a submission. This time around, he elected to straight up smash Dennis Tululin. And yeah, Dennis Tululin, his ground game is very low level, and Rodriguez showed that it's very high level. That was a nasty KO with that elbow. And to
Absolutely.
move on, we had the Ultimate Fighter finales. Kurt Holobaugh versus Austin Hubbard, a second round triangle choke. This was awesome. I thought Austin Hubbard would win with takedowns, but I didn't really consider the fact that Kurt Holobaugh is a beast off of his back. He can submit a lot of guys off of his back. And he transitioned from the armbar to the triangle beautifully. The guy's so slick, and he made Austin Hubbard tap out. This is actually his first win in the UFC. He was already in the UFC before, but he never got a win. And to get the win and the Ultimate Fighter trophy is awesome. He's the winner for Team Chandler. And let's be honest, all these guys were actually Team Chandler guys. They gave Brad Katona to Connor out of mercy. What did you make of the Ultimate Fighter finales?
Yeah, they were fantastic. Both really good fights. As you talked about, Kurt Halabat in a fantastic fight with Austin Hubbard. And I thought the Brad Katona fight was Cody Gibson. That was a nitty-gritty fight. Could have went either way. I favoured Cody Gibson. And I feel like a lot of people might have favoured Cody Gibson.
Yeah, Cody Gibson, I thought was gonna give Brackettone a lot of trouble with his striking, but that was not the case. Brackettone decided to stand with him. I thought we were gonna see a lot of grappling from Brad, but Brad would not give up, even though he was getting pressured the whole time by Cody Gibson. He lost round one, but round two, even though he got outstruck, he was able to rock Cody Gibson and win that round. And in round three, Cody Gibson got really messed up in that round. Rakatona has insane cardio, has a really good chin, and this is his best performance that I can recall. So for me, it's this is one of the best fights I've seen all year. Cody Gibson is going to get in the UFC as well, so good for him. He really needs it. And Brackettona is now the only guy to win the Ultimate Fighter twice. Not many guys can say that. This is a guy that they should keep on the roster for the rest of his career for having to win the Ultimate Fighter twice.
Completely agree, yeah. And the first three fights of the evening, Karine Silva getting the job done, Natalia Silva as well, and Andre Pachowski getting the job done. I didn't manage to catch these three, but I went to rewatch the Karine Silva guillotine choke in the first round. She's impressive. She's dangerous on the ground.
Yeah, there's a lot to love with Karina Silva. She's all about those first round finishes. She's the only female UFC fighter to get three submissions in the first round in a row. And it's an excellent way to start a career. She's got a lot of hype behind her now. She's now ranked in the top 15, and she did against Marina Moroz, who was a very tough out. And Natalia Silva versus Andrea Lee. This was not the most exciting fight because to me it seemed that Natalia Silva was just levels above, and Andrea Lee never changed the game plan, never switched it up. She's got solid wrestling, never attempted it. And Andre Petrosky, Gerald Mearshart. This went how I thought it would. Petrosky winning by decision, and Mearshart attempting to switch things around in round three, but ultimately not enough. So yeah, this was a fun way to start the card, and I'm telling you, do not bet against Silvas.
Yeah, do not bet against Silva, says Oscar Silva. That was pretty much UFC 292 in a recap. Fantastic night. A new champion, Sean O'Malley, new superstar, new UFC superstar, mega star, should we say. It was a fantastic night for fights all around. And now we're going to talk about what's coming up. We'll talk about contenders that went down last night. And we had a few contracts awarded, three, if I'm correct. Zachary Reese, Oben Elliott, and Luis Pagello. 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 So,
Pajuelo,
uh,
Pajuelo, yeah.
yeah, Padruello. So they won a contract. Obviously, I had to go back and rewatch Oben Elliott. I didn't manage to catch them all, but I watched Oben Elliott and I watched Zachary Reese. Zachary obviously getting a submission in the first round off his back. He looked fantastic. He stays undefeated. Oben Elliott in a fantastic fight. He showed a lot of heart, a lot of grit to really claw back after he won the first round. He lost the second round. It looked like he was going to lose the third round, but he came out sharp and he got the job done. Oben Elliott is inside the UFC. This guy's a character. You're going to see his face on a lot of your screens in the next few years.
Yeah, I think that this guy really stood out on the mic, and in this fight, there was moments where he could have just quit, but he didn't. He got rocked. He got his back taken. Never gave up. And in round three, he caught a second wind and put a real beating on Kike Brito. I honestly thought Brito was going to win. He had the experience advantage, but Oben just wanted it real bad, and he was able to sway Dana White in the end with his passion.
Completely. He gets the contract. Kai Brito as well. He's no joke. He was an Octagon MMA champion, so there's a lot of backing behind him. So a fantastic win for Oben Elliott, and now he's inside the UFC. We've got another Welsh edition, so they're building a little roster over there. So fantastic that is for the UFC, and fantastic for the British and UK fans. Looking forward to see how he gets inside the UFC. We'll talk about PFL 9 just quickly. And obviously, we've got that this weekend. Shane Burgos in the main event against Clay Collard. Olivia Aubin-Mercier against Bruno Miranda. Carlos Leal versus Saliba Sai. Magomed Kirimov versus Solomon Renfal. That's the tournament playoffs. We've got Biagio Ali Walsh as well. I love Biagio Ali Walsh, man. He's fantastic. Grandson of Muhammad Ali. A lot of history behind his name. He's kind of proven it over there in the amateur scene. Excited to see how he gets on his career. But yeah, the five fights that I'm looking forward to, obviously, is the main card, and Biagio Ali Walsh, or Biagio is the main card as well. Clay Collard versus Shane Burgos. I see Shane Burgos getting on top. Olivier Bermessier, I think he's going to cruise to either a decision victory comfortably. Curtis Davis to the USI. I really like Sidi Sai. I think he's fantastic. He's got that, that it factor about him. He, produces them knockouts when he can. Spectacular knockouts as well. And Magomed Kirimov, I also think he's going to get the victory. Which fights are you most looking forward to in PFL 9? Who do you think is going to win?
Yeah, I really like the Clay Collard Shea Burgos fight. If it was the UFC, they would get the fight of the night bonus. It's a shame Shea Burgos isn't in the UFC anymore. I think at lightweight he doesn't have to cut as much weight, but he's gonna have to run into big guys like Clay Collard who are monstrous power punches. Clay Collard put a real beating on Jeremy Stevens when he fought him, and I think he can do a similar thing to Shane Burgos, who's not super defensively responsible. So I will actually pick Clay Collard to win in the main event. And I do like the Magomed Karimov versus Solomon Renfro fight. Renfro has fought in the Contender Series before, and I think this is a guy with an exciting style for Magomed Karimov. I think Magomed can knock him out on the feet if he elects to do that. So yeah, I think that's going to be a standing bang type of fight.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. PFL 9 going down tonight. So make sure you watch that. Live on ESPN Plus, I do believe. So we'll talk about the next one. And that is UFC Fight Night Holloway versus Korean Zombie live at UFC Singapore. Man, oh man. Finally, we get a fantastic, a card for the European fans to watch at an appropriate time. Oscar Silva has to wake up at 4 a.m. if he wants to watch the fights, and he's already said that he's not doing that. So shame on you. Shame on you. We'll talk about the main event. Max Holloway versus Chan Sung Jung, the Korean Zombie. This one is a send-off for the Korean Zombie in front of his home crowd, basically. He's going to get a fantastic reception, and it's going to be even better because he's got Max Holloway standing on across him, who I feel like is going to acknowledge that and respect that and put on a showcase for the fans for a send-off for Chan Sung Jung. And I feel like he's still going to win. I feel like he's still going to cruise to a victory, maybe 4 rounds to 1, 5 rounds to 0. But I feel like he's going to make it entertaining for the fans. He's going to be in a scrap with Chan Sung Jung and just have a fantastic send-off for obviously the legend for the Korean Zombie.
Chan Sung Jung called out Max Holloway after he defeated Dan Ige in a dominant performance, but in the end, he ended up getting a title shot. He got destroyed by Alexander Volkanovski. Max Holloway also got destroyed by Alexander Volkanovski, but he's not losing to anybody not named Volkanovski in the featherweight division since 2013 against Conor McGregor, back when Conor McGregor was in the featherweight division. I believe that this is a very unfair fight from Chan Sung Jung, the Korean Zombie, who's at the end of his career. Max Holloway is still, if I'm not mistaken, in his early 30s. So this is going to be a bad night at the office for a Korean Zombie. Max Holloway is known for putting these epic beatings on guys. He had the singular best performance in UFC history against Calvin Kattar, where he landed over 400 strikes. I think he's going to do something similar to Korean Zombie. Korean Zombie is known as Korean Zombie because he walks forward like a zombie, eats all the shots. He'll take one to give one. And I think it's going to take a lot in this fight. And I think Max Holloway will win this fight via 5th round TKO. The volume will be overwhelming for Korean Zombie. The durability isn't what it once was. It's going to be a fun fight, but if you're a really big Korean Zombie fan, it might be a little hard to watch because it's going to take a serious beating at the hands of Max Holloway. I don't think either guy will grapple. We know Korean Zombie is a solid grappler. He had the first twister in the UFC. He dominated Dan Ige with the grappling, but Max Holloway has shown that he's got good grappling himself, and he's got a good guillotine in his arsenal too. So we could see Max Holloway finish via submission if he needs to as well. I think he should be a 10-1 favorite. This is not going to be super competitive in my eyes.
Completely agree. I understand everything that you're saying. Max Holloway, I mean, he's so much younger. 31 years of age. Chan Sung Jung, we talked about. He's coming to the end of his career. If not, I do believe this is a retirement fight. I think that has been confirmed. So after this one, he's calling it a day. He's been around in some fantastic wars in the day, but Max Holloway's levels above him, and I feel like we're going to definitely see that. But as I spoke about, I feel like Max Holloway will keep this fight entertaining for the fans, and then we'll give the Korean Zombie a appropriate send off into wherever he goes next. We'll move over to the co-main event. We've got the Lionheart versus Ryan Spann. This is a rematch. Lionheart took the first fight. Pretty, convincingly, I would say, in the first fight. If I'm correct, he got a submission victory, rear naked choke, in the first one when they first faced each other. Yeah, rear naked choke in round one, pretty convincingly. Ryan Spann, as of late, he's had a few more fights. Lionheart has had 2 back-to-back, losses against Magomed Ankalaev and Johnny Walker. But now Ryan Spann is coming into this one with a few wins behind his belt. Obviously, he lost to Nikita Krylov in his last fight, but he beat Iron Kutalaba, Dominic Reyes, and then lost to Krylov. Do you see this fight going the same way as the first fight did, with Anthony Smith getting that submission victory? Because only there is a lot of question marks about Ryan Spann when he gets to the grappling fight, when he goes to the ground. He looks very vulnerable to the submissions. But yeah, he's very vulnerable to submissions.
I think there's a lot of question marks on the Anthony Smith side. He didn't look mentally in his last fight. He was destroyed by leg kicks and nearly finished by Johnny Walker. Um, and prior to that, he had the loss to Magomed Ankalaev where his leg um, gave out on him. I think Anthony Smith is not too far from retirement, honestly. Ryan Spann, on the other hand, he's very inconsistent. He has a lot of talent. He has crazy power, but he tends to fumble the bag in situations. Like in the Johnny Walker fight, he had Johnny Walker hurt, then he goes for a takedown and gets clipped with elbows and goes down. The Nikita Krylov fight, that's a fight where he probably should have stayed standing with Krylov. Instead, he grapples with Krylov and gets tapped out. I think Anthony Smith can do the same thing that he did in the first fight if his mind is in it, and I think he will show up better than he did in his last fight. But I think these guys are going to trade on the feet, and we saw Smith get the better of Spann last time. So I think he'll do it again. I think this time around, instead of getting the submission, I think he gets a TKO in round 2.
Yeah, I'm going with submission, Anthony Smith. One of my favourite fighters, Anthony Smith. I got him on my wall up there in the picture after he beat Rashad Evans, knocked him out with the knee. I think it was inside the knee or the elbow inside the clinch. Fantastic
Great.
career that he's had thus far. So I'm looking forward to seeing him fight again. But we'll move on to the next one. One of the fights that I'm most look forward to, because on paper it's an absolute banger. Giga Chikadze versus Alex Caceres. This one I feel like we're going to see an absolute barn burner. I think they're going to go at it. They're going to throw some strikes. Giga Chikadze has been in some wild fights as of late. He desperately needs a win. Alex Caceres, he's been on. He was on a good run, and then he obviously fell short in his last fight, or the one before that against Sadiq Youssef, and then beat Julian Erosa, then beat Daniel Pineda. But now he takes on Giga Chikadze, who I believe has been out of the ring for a very long time, and now he returns. If not, I might be mistaken as well. I'll have a look. His last fight was against Calvin Cater. So that's over a year now he's been outside the ring. Obviously, he's had some time to reflect on that loss, and I feel like he did take a lot of damage in that loss. Calvin Cater put on a fantastic performance in that one, but I feel like we're going to see a really good fight between these two. I think it's going to be competitive, but I see Giga Chikadze just getting the edge on the scorecards.
Yeah, Giga Chikadze has been out for a year and a half now. and I think he's going to look really good in this fight against Alex Caceres. Alex Caceres is completely outmatched here in the striking. Caceres got on a good winning streak in the UFC, but if we're being honest, some of those names were not high level, and some of them were even cut. Um, the best win there was, I would say, was yeah, it was probably Doohoo Choi, and that was a fight where he got dropped, and then he got kneed illegally, and Doohoo Choi was kind of gassed after that, and he got the submission in that fight, and I think he could do the same to Giga Chikadze. Giga Chikadze did not have to face a lot of grapplers in his rise, and if you fought him, they were guys that were completely outmatched in striking. Um, he got a lot of good finishes, especially with his signature Giga kick in that run. I think he might be able to do the same to Alex Caceres. Um, I think this is the fight you want for Giga if you're a fan, because if he was to re-enter the Shark Tank with the likes of Brian Ortega, with say on Arnold Allen, I don't think it would go too well for him. But a guy that's at the bottom of the rankings, like Alex Caceres, I do think this is going to be a good fight for him, and I think he wins a unanimous decision.
Completely agree. This is a fantastic fight. I'm looking forward to it. On paper, should be a banger. We'll move over to the next one. Rihanna Nakamura versus Fernie Garcia. You might recognize that Nakamura guy if you do watch Road to the UFC. That's where he showcased, his talents. A straight left, completely knocked out his opponent. Obviously, not actually. Sorry, he had the key lock victory and he had the knockout victory, and then obviously in his UFC debut, he knocked out Kazama on his debut. So this guy is a finisher. We've seen it up and down his career. He's obviously competing in his sport all over the round, all in the world in different um, organizations. Looking forward to see how he gets on. He's young. He's got a lot of talent. If you look at the man across him, Ferne Garcia, 10-3, Mexican, heading into this one. To be honest, I don't know too much about him, but I'll quickly look at his record. He's 2 losses back to back versus Johnny Nielsen and Brady Heisen. So immediately, maybe I'm buying into the hype, but I like Nakamura. In his debut, he impressed. In the road to the UFC, he impressed. He's got a UFC contract. I feel like we're going to see another impressive performance. Potentially could be even on knockout, even though Fernie Garcia hasn't been knocked out in his 3 losses. So that's one to talk about. But I think Nakamura is going to get the job done by decision. Maybe it could be his toughest fight to date, but I'm buying into the hype.
I really think this is a good matchup for Renya Nakamura. Fernie Garcia is a boxer, uh, and in the Journey Nation fight, he kind of got exposed for that because once Journey mixed up the leg kicks, it gave Fernie Garcia some problems. Renya Nakamura has very high output. He's undefeated, and I think he will get Fernie Garcia out of there quick. I think he probably gets it done in the first round and a half. I'm gonna say second round he gets the knockout against Fernie Garcia. I just think Renya Nakamura is just too powerful and quick. He's got so much talent. He's a very dangerous southpaw. I think he gets it done.
Absolutely. We'll move on to the next one. Another fantastic one to talk about. Aaron Blanchfield versus Talia Santos. Possibly the number one title fight, number one contender fight. To get the shot after obviously Valentin Shevchenko, Alexa Grasso. Once that goes down, maybe this is the argument. Number one contender fight. Whoever gets that shot next. Aaron Blanchfield has been an absolute tear. Obviously, she beat Molly McCann. Then she beat Jessica Andrade. And if you look at Talia Santos, she's returning after a long layoff as well, over a year. Obviously, she lost that split decision versus Valentina Shevchenko. She gave a good account of herself, really showcased her wrestling and obviously her striking as well. But Erin Blanchfield, I don't think she does that to Erin Blanchfield. I don't think she has her way on the ground with Erin Blanchfield. I really rate Erin Blanchfield. I talked about buying in the hype with Nakamura, but I'm really buying in the hype of Erin Blanchfield. When she burst onto the scene versus Miranda Maverick, obviously she had a fantastic performance. Miranda beat J. Aldridge, absolutely smashed Molly McCann, absolutely smashed Jessica Andrade. I feel like this is going to be a tougher fight for her. I think this is going to go to the scorecards, but I see her winning and obviously advancing to be number contender. And I feel like she's going to get the next shot. I am on the Erin Blanchfield train.
I am on the Aaron Blanchfield train as well, but I don't quite think she's got her striking developed enough to win the title quite yet. She's got fantastic grappling. She showed it in her last fight against Jessica Andrade. She got a takedown after winning the first one on the feet, and then she got the submission fairly quickly against a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Tal Santos also a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but the difference is I think she's not as as weathered as Jessica Andrade. I do think she's going to give Aaron Blanchfield some problem on the feet. Tal Santos is very strong. When she fought Valentina Shevchenko, she was able to get a lot of takedowns and get the back of Shevchenko, and you could have very easily scored that fight in her favor. But at the end of the day, the judges did not give her the win that night, and then she was supposed to fight Blanchfield this past March. It didn't end up happening, and now it's happening. I do think Santos is being slept on this week, for the fact that she hasn't fought in a year, and the fact that Aaron Blanchfield is coming off of this really good streak. I think Tal Santos is going to win this very narrowly with her advantage on the feet. Erin Blanchfield is a better grappler. She will probably give Santos a lot of problems, but I don't think Santos will get submitted. And on the feet, I do think she has more pop in her punches, and the striking is going to be crisper. So I'm going to go with Tyler Santos, the underdog, to win a split decision this weekend.
This will be the UFC. This will be the told you so fight of the week, Oscar. I'm telling you.
All right.
Uh, But yeah, we move on to the next one. Julia Taffer versus Parker Porter. Another Taffer taking on Parker Porter. Obviously, Parker Porter got that win against Braxton Smith only 2 months ago. Before that, he lost to Justin Taffer and lost to Jalton Almeida. Junior Taffer lost his debut in the UFC against Mohammed Usman. Before that, obviously, he was in Ryzen doing his thing over there, getting the job done. He's still very young. He'll learn from that decision loss versus Mohammed Usman. But if you look at Parker Porter, look at the people he's lost to. Justin Taffer, he's going to have a lot to say to Junior Taffer, because he's the younger brother. But he's going to have not a blueprint, but he's going to be able to hand down the game plan to beat Parker Porter. And obviously, we've seen if you can get him hurt, you can win the fight. He's got 8 losses, 14 wins. It's not a fantastic record. If you look at his record inside the UFC, 4 wins, 3 losses. He's been finished 3 times inside the UFC by Chris Daukaus, Justin Taffer. Is this another fight where I feel like he gets finished? Most likely. I do believe Parker Porter might be at the lowest of barrels of the inside the UFC heavyweight division. Junior Taffer, though, I think he's going to have to get him out there to win the fight.
Junior Tafa is getting his brother's leftovers here, and I think he's going to do the same thing that his brother did. Junior Tafa showed that he had really poor takedown defense against Muhammad Usman in his debut, but I don't think Parker Porter is as physically strong as Muhammad Usman, or as athletic for that matter. I think Junior Tafa will knock out Parker Porter in round 1. Parker Porter, if he is able to weather round 1, he tends to win. But this is a fight where I feel that that he's not fighting a guy as low level as Braxton Smith, who Braxton Smith, by the way, was on steroids in that fight, and he still couldn't get it done. He gassed out after like a minute. I think Junior Tafa can put away Parker Porter early, just like his brother did. Uh, yeah, not much else to say. Parker Porter, he does have some submissions in his back pocket of his sleeve, but I just don't think he's all that quick, and I think Junior Taffa can clip him and put him away.
Absolutely agree. We'll move over to the next fight, another heavyweight division fight. Waldo Cortes-Acosta. He was showing some really good promise inside the UFC. Obviously beat Jared Vandera, beat Chase Sherman, and then obviously in his last fight, he fell short against Marcus Rodriguez de Lima. But that's there's no shame in that one. Marcus Rodriguez de Lima has been around the game for a very long time. He's only going to learn from that fight. Lucas Brzezinski, if you look at his last 2 fights, he's lost a split decision versus Martin Buday and a decision victory versus Carl Williams. He's also got a no contest that I believe happened on the Contender Series. So Brzezinski versus Waldo Acosta, Cortes-Acosta. Waldo, I really buy into the hype. Obviously, he had some fantastic fights, as I mentioned, against Jeremy Federa and Chase Sherman. They are obviously two of the bottom of the barrel heavyweights. But if you look at Brzezinski as well, I just feel like Waldo Cortes Acosta is just much better than Brzezinski. Maybe he'll get his third loss in a row, and we'll see it this weekend. He's also a much bigger guy. Stature wise, they are the same height, but if you look at the latest weight, Brzezinski stepped in 245 pounds. Wilder Costa stepped in 258 pounds. That's a lot of weight. That's a lot of weight to try and keep off. So Wilder, I think, is going to get the job done. I'm not too sure how he gets it done. In his first UFC 2 fights, he got them done by decision. So I think the safe pick would go decision.
I don't think this is going to be a very fun fight to watch. I think Cortez Acosta probably gets it done by decision. Lucas Bresky has gone the distance against Carl Williams and against Martin Buday. I thought he won the Buday fight because he outstruck him in that fight. He might do the same against Cortez Acosta, and he also does have the grappling advantage here. But I'm not entirely sure that he will be successful there. It was Marcos Cherry de Lima that was able to outgrapple Waldo, and I don't think Lucas is as powerful as Waldo. I will go with Waldo in the end. He does have a higher striking output per 15 minutes. Waldo strikes at 7 per minute, and Lucas strikes at 5 per minute. So I think it's going to come down to the volume in the end, and Waldo will have the higher volume and will win the decision.
Completely agree. We'll talk about the rest of the prelims. Toshinori Kazama versus Garrett Armfield and Chijin Njokuani versus Michelle Olashenchek. Kenan Song versus Rolando Bedoya. Yasuko Kanishita versus Bilo Goff. Nali Yang versus JJ Aldridge. Song Woo Choi versus Jano Erens. Some fights that I'm really looking forward to. Obviously, Kenan Song's always a good fight. But that Children Jaquani versus Misha Olachenchek, that should really entertain the fans, surely.
Yeah, I think that's going to be an absolute banger, and I think somebody's going to go to sleep in that one. But first, let's talk about Kashiomi Kazama versus Gary Armfield. Kazama has got wrestling, so does Armfield. I think it's probably going to come down to who has the better wrestling. I don't think they're going to want to strike a whole lot on the feet. I do think Kashomi is the better athlete, and I do think he has more pop in his punches. Sure, he got destroyed on the road to the UFC by Nakamura, but Garrett Armfield does not have that kind of power or striking ability like Nakamura. So this is a better fight for Kazama. I think Kazama will win by decision here.
Yeah, completely agree. Looking forward to that one. And we'll talk about the next one, Chidrin Jaquani versus Michelle Osheshek. Both got some power in their hands. Obviously, Chidrin Jaquani burst onto the UFC scene with a fantastic knockout. It was absolutely spectacular. That was versus Dusko Todorovic, but since then, I'm not sorry, Marc-Andre Barriot, and then obviously beat Dusko Todorovic. But in the last two fights, hasn't gone the best of ways. Lost Gregory Rodriguez, and obviously lost Albert Dorev. Michel Olenchek. I feel like he's always in a good fight. The only thing I feel like he lacks is that killer instinct to really finish the fight, get the job done. He's 6-4 inside the UFC. I said that actually. He beat Sam Alvey and Cody Brundage, but I can't really take a lot from them fights. Cody Brundage released from the UFC. Sam Alvey also released from the UFC, fighting on the regional scenes. When he struggles is when the grappling is involved. We got submitted by obviously Ovin St. Preux, still by Kyle Bahelio. So that's when it could be dangerous. But he's been inside the UFC for a long time, since 2019. Beat some really good names. Leon Vellante, Modest Kalkus, obviously, Sam Alvarez, as I talked about. But yeah, this one's a really good fight. Should entertain the fans. I'm going with Michelle Olenchek to get the job done. And I'm going with knockout.
I'm actually gonna go with Cheating Jokwani here. Cheating Jokwani fought Albert Durab in his last fight, and he had the takedown threat on his mind the whole fight, so he did not open up as he usually does. And prior to that, the Greg Rodriguez fight, he gassed out after round one and got taken down and smashed. Michal Grzesiek will not take down Chidi. So I think this is going to be basically a kickboxing fight. And I do think that Chidi Njokuani has got the size advantage and he's a little crisper. I do think that this will this will be back and forth, but in the end, I do think that Chidi Njokuani, I'll say he wins by decision, but he could get the knockout here. Michal has not shown a chin problem at all. He stood and struck with some dangerous guys like Modestas Bukauskas and Khalil Roundtree, and he's done well. But I do think that it's gonna be a win for Chidi. It's a tough one to pick, but it's gonna be very fun, and they're both gonna be swinging big. But Chidi Njokuani has had some great performance against guys that just want to strike.
Absolutely agree. Looking forward to it. We talk about the first four of the evening. Kenan Song returning. Obviously, he fought. I think it might have been Ian Gary in his last fight. He obviously, he got knocked out against Ian Gary. And obviously, he got knocked out by Max Griffin. He takes on Rolando Bedoya. Rolando Bedoya, obviously 14-2 in his victory in his career so far. Thus far, he will be taking on. Obviously, he talks about Kenan Song. He's 1-0 inside the UFC. He fought Chaos Williams. It was a split decision. Who you got in this one? Obviously, Rolando is still very new to the UFC. That was only his debut in his last fight. Who have you got in this one? Kenan Song has had more fights than him, more experience. Is that going to be a factor in this fight, you reckon?
Not really, honestly. Song Kanan, uh, I'm not I'm not super sure about him being UFC caliber. He beat a lot of guys that are no longer in the UFC. And whenever he fights a guy that's UFC caliber, it doesn't go well for him. He got knocked out um by Max Griffin. He got beat up by Morono. Then Gary was able to finish him in round three. Sure, he did win round one, but Gary made a mistake and got dropped. There, he's got power. I'll give him that, but the cardio is not great. The grappling is not really there. For Bedoya, on the other hand, he had a fantastic showing in his UFC debut. Even though he lost, he had a very competitive fight with Chaos Williams. Chaos Williams was throwing everything in his arsenal at Bedoya. Bedoya didn't even get dropped, which is remarkable. Chaos Williams has legitimate knockout power, and Bedoya did just well, and he landed a very high output in that fight. I think he's gonna destroy Song Kinong here. I think he gets a second round knockout here. I really like what Bedoya showed against Chaos Williams.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. Kenan Song has been around inside the UFC, I felt like, for a very long time. Yusuke Kinshita versus Billy Goff in this one. Billy Goff, I've seen a lot of hype around him on Twitter, especially. A lot of people talking to him. Obviously, he was a double champ in a promotion outside the UFC. I can't remember what it was. CSS, that's it. Double champion outside UFC. Went on Contender Series, got his knockout victory, and now he takes in Yusuke Kinshita. Obviously 6-2. Billy Goff 8-2. If you look at his record, he's been around for a very long time. If you look at Billy Goff's record, he's fought inside Bellator, 2-0 inside Bellator. So he has that big stage experience, as you will. So it's good for him to go get out there and get that big stage experience. But now this is where it matters, the UFC, and he takes on Yusuke Kinshita. And if you see his record, as I talked about, 6-2 inside his MMA career. He's 0-1 inside the UFC. He lost his debut against Adam Fugit. He won a Contender Series, and he also lost his other fight as well. Lost via grabbing the fence. That's the first one. That was in Ryzen back in 2021. Who have you got for this one? There is a lot of hype with Billy Goff on Twitter. Is that justified? Have you got Billy Goff? Who wins?
I do think it's justified in this kind of matchup. Yusaku was taken down in his last fight by Adam Fudget. He was a huge favorite, and he got taken down and had no answer. He got finished. I think it was be a ground and pound. I think Goff can do a similar thing. He got a lot of takedowns on the Contender Series, and yeah, was very active in a big position, always trying to finish. I think he's going to finish Yusaku in the same way that Fuji did. I think he takes him down, and eventually in round two, I think he gets the TKO with ground and pound. I'm just not sold on Yusaku's ground game. His striking is very good. He's got a lot of power, but I think Goff will make that irrelevant, and I think he gets a lot of takedowns.
Yeah, completely agree. We'll look at the first two of the evening. Nan Liang versus JJ Aldridge. JJ Aldridge 11-6 versus Nan Liang, who's 19-6. Since Nan Liang came to the UFC, she's been found out a little bit, I would say. Outside the UFC, she was fighting a lot of the competition wasn't great, and I feel like we're kind of realizing that now. JJ Aldridge though, two back-to-back losses, submission loss versus Erin Blanchfield, and obviously in a last fight against Ariana Lipski. This one is so hard to bet on because on paper it looks really really close because this is. This one's too tough to call. I have no idea who's going to win. If I'm going to pick, I'm probably going to go with JJ Aldridge by the tiniest of margins.
I'm actually shocked by your assessment of this fight because I don't even think it's close. JJ Aldrich has been in the UFC a long time, has fought a lot of good fighters, has beaten some good grapplers in her day, like Jillian Robertson and Vanessa Demopoulos. Now Yang, she's kind of like the Chinese Ronda Rousey. She's all about that armbar, and on the feet, there's not a lot of technique there. I think that this is going to be a fight where JJ Aldrich can for sure win by striking if she wants. And if she wants to, she can take down Na Yang. We know she can defend submissions from good grapplers, black belts in jiu-jitsu, like Robertson and Demopoulos. I think she will have no problem defending the submissions. And also, we've seen from Na Yang, her gas taking is not that great. So we could potentially see Aldrich get a late finish here. I think Aldrich wins wherever this fight goes. I don't think Aldrich is going to be discouraged by her last two losses. Those were UFC caliber girls. Now Liang, she's gotten destroyed in all UFC fights. I don't think she's UFC caliber. JJ Aldrich by domination, unanimous decision.
Yeah, I mean, this one was probably tough to call. We'll talk about next one as well. Song Woo Choi versus Jano Errands. Song Woo Choi had some good momentum after beating Juliana Rosa, but that abruptly stopped when he faced Alex Caceres, rear naked choke submission loss. And then he fought Joshua Kulabau, lost a split decision. And then his last fight, he got knocked out by Michael Trezano. He takes on the Dutch Jano Errands, who in his UFC debut, he lost against William Gomez. This one, I would say, would be tough to call as well. I am favouring Song Woo Choi, but I would say, again, that is probably the slightest of margins. He's not had a victory for a very, very long time. 2 years and 1 month since his last MMA victory. And that was against Junior Rosa, as I talked about. That's a fantastic victory. He was riding a lot of momentum, but that completely crashed. This MMA game is cruel. 1 minute you're up, and then 1 minute you're down. This one is a big one, I would say, for Song Woo Choi. He desperately needs to win this one. Otherwise, he can see maybe the axe from the UFC.
Yeah, these guys are tall featherweights. John Aaron is a striker. In his last fight against William Gomez and UFC Perry, he got taken down, but he almost got the triangle choke. I think it was at the end of round three where he had a tight triangle choke in, but the clock ran out on him. And had there been a little more time there, he might have gotten his hand raised there against William Gomez. I think Sung Woo Choi is a much better striker here, though. And unless we see a grappling sequence where Jono might be able to get a submission, I think it's probably going to be one-way traffic from Sung Woo Choi here. And I think he gets a signature victory here by decision or knockout. But at the end of the day, I do think he's a much higher level fighter than Aaron, who to me didn't show much in the William fight in his debut.
Completely agree. Looking forward to it. That wraps up UFC Singapore that's happening this weekend. I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, we've got a fantastic main event. The send-off fight for Chan Sung Jong, Max Holloway in the main event. When you have Max Holloway in the main event, it's always exciting. Looking forward to it. Yeah, appreciate it. And we'll talk about just one quickly. We've got Alexander Usyk this weekend versus Daniel Dubois in Poland. Alexander Usyk fighting in sort of his home crowd, obviously because of the war. A lot of the Ukrainians have moved to Poland, so he's going to get quite a lot of home crowd favoritism in this one. Daniel Dubois traveling to enemy territory to take on Alexander Usyk for 4 belts: WBA, IBF, WBO, IBO. This is a really big fight. But as you talked about when you said you said you didn't even know he's fighting, and I completely agree. The promotion it's just a little bit lackluster, a little bit, but nonetheless, completely straight, simple prediction. Alexander Usyk is going to have his way with Daniel Dubois any way he wants, and he will get the knockout in late. I'd say about 6 to 10, 6 to 10 in them rounds. He'll get the knockout and finish the fight.
Yeah, Usyk may be on the slow side for a heavyweight, but his technique and his quickness really stands out. And he almost got a finishing. And same thing, Joshua, when he won that title, had him on the ropes there before the clock ran out. And I think that Dubois will virtually get finished. I'll say round 9.
Yeah, completely agree. Looking forward to it. I always like when the big boxing heavyweight showdowns are on. It just has a different feeling to it. Maybe because they are heavyweights, and obviously the boxing division at the moment is booming inside the boxing. Well, obviously boxing world. We got
Yeah.
Francis Ngannou having a little taster feel against Tyson Fury. So interesting to see how that goes. But that pretty much wraps up the episode. Oscar, thank you very much. Send off the fans. What should we be looking out for this weekend?
And I think you should be looking out for straight up violence in Singapore. Uh, and if you watch it in the morning, I do think that'll wake you up because I think we're going to see a lot of finishes. Uh, and and also make sure to enjoy the fights as always.
Absolutely. Enjoy the fights, guys. Catch us next week, Wednesday, same time. Thank you very much. See you all next week.